This is IsAware, powered by Intersoft Associates. IsAware is your connection to exploring the systems and software that power businesses like yours with expert insight, experience, and advice.
Welcome back to IsAware. My name is Chris Bentliff, and I'm here as ever with Abe Unger and Hai Goldstaff from Intersoft Associates. And we thought today we would talk about, we were joking last week that you don't get to do what Intersoft does successfully. You've been around since the DOS days. There's not much you haven't seen. There's not much you haven't been through. And one of the things that I think a lot of companies, and Hai, you've shared this with me, more and more you're seeing organizations come to us needing to upgrade or migrate from something older to something new. And I thought it would be valuable to talk a little bit about so many of the things you've learned over the years with migrations and how that could benefit some of our listeners. So let's start, Hai, by just kind of level setting on what do we mean by migrations? There's different ways we can think about it. There's different aspects to it. What do you mean?
I guess there are three different components or let's say components to it, and not all can be employed. One is simply, taking what you're doing, taking the software that you might be doing and migrating it to the cloud. It might be some desktop software. It might be something like QuickBooks Desktop, migrating to QuickBooks Online. It could be software that you have and then migrating to the cloud for a whole bunch of reasons in terms of accessibility, and there might be some cost savings. And there's also the situation where you have older software that's been around for a number of years and you want to upgrade it, and that would that might be two forms of migration. Number one is move it from a desktop application to a browser-based application, which just gives you different kinds of capabilities. And then if you've got a browser application, those are ideal for migrating to the cloud if it makes sense. And there are a lot of reasons that it does, and there can be a lot of reasons that it doesn't make sense. It depends on your particular situation. We have a client with a ton of data, and a ton of data is coming to each user's screen, and migrating to the cloud and the amount of storage that they're operating in and migrating to the cloud, it may not be the most optimal strategy, at least not today, from a cost standpoint and a performance standpoint. But in general, those are the three things. You're moving something from a desktop to the cloud. You're upgrading something that's old with a new application, may or may not be browser-based, and you've got a desktop application that you want to improve on and make it so it's browser available.
So you mentioned cost and performance. Abe, are those two of the criteria that should sort of lead my thinking in what do I need, or what should I be doing, or what's the right thing for me? Because again, if I'm not a technologist, I don't know. I just know I want the solution to look like this or to behave like this. What are some of the things I should be keeping in mind as I'm starting to explore this or talk to consultants, or, I've got some DIY guy on my team who thinks we can easily do this. What should I be really kind of thinking about or asking questions about?
So, but that's exactly as you said it is what you should be doing, is asking the questions. Cost is always a factor, and there are multiple ways to work around that issue, depending on how you go with this, what kind of a solution you go with. And there are multiple potential solutions that can be implemented there, even in the cloud world, whether it's cloud or on-site. It doesn't really matter. The purpose is ask the questions, talk to somebody. The DIY guy is great, but sometimes a little bit of knowledge can be dangerous. So you have an idea as to what you might think makes sense to do, but that's because the DIYer has a little bit of knowledge and says, "Oh, this sounds like a great solution." But there are other solutions out there, and there are other ways to implement that solution. So just because the cloud sounds great doesn't mean that that's the best way, the best place for your business. It really just depends on a whole bunch of factors. Do you need this to be external? Is it only internal? Is it an app that people shouldn't get to on the internet? Is it something that's intranet specific? Well, then the cloud may not be a good solution for you. May not make sense. It may, but that's where the point is that you have the conversation with someone who has the knowledge of the various solutions that are available, both external and internal, and then discuss that. And as any kind of an upgrade is an opportunity for change as well. So look into that, whether it's bad practices and best practices that had not been adhered to that you can now start adhering to, it's worthwhile having that conversation. And again, a DIY person may not know best practices. They may know about things to do, but not necessarily best practices. And you definitely want to institute best practices in your applications.
Hi, I feel like that gets into kind of that strategic discussion we've had before. Do you see that sometimes organizations come with a real tactical approach and they haven't asked some of those strategic questions first? Or is that generally not the issue? Do people come with you with an open mind and asking the questions and they're starting off in the right way? Because my thinking is, if you don't do this strategic stuff, you can spend a pile of time doing this other stuff and only have realized that you got to tear it down or do something else, or you should have turned right when you turned left, or what's the landscape on that where you see it?
Well, like anything else, there are people that have different skills and different backgrounds. Some people have no idea what they need. They know they need something, and they'll come and ask us to do that. Other people will know exactly what they need, and start working with us. In both cases, we collaborate with them because, again, we've got tens and hundreds of clients over the past millennia that we've worked with, and so we've seen a lot of the same principles creep up no matter what the business is. And so there's always, again, I like to say this, but there's always the opportunity for 1 and 1 equal 3. Now, in some cases, if the person doesn't really thinks he knows or thinks they know what the solution is, and they're way off base because they don't know what can be done, 1 and 1 may equal 4, or we may need to bring someone else in there. So it's a little bit of each, and we've been successful with both kinds of clients.
Abe, I think sometimes the idea of migration of databases and upgrades and software, it feels like a technology problem, and that's the obvious place to start. But more and more, I think I'm learning from you guys that it's really a business problem first, and the technology is one aspect. Do you agree with that, or what's your perspective on that?
I absolutely agree with that. And yes, technology is a factor, and systems that are ancient, you're going to run into walls with technology, and you're going to have issues with it. But the core version or the core reason for upgrading or moving or migrating is usually not specifically technology. It can be if you're an old system, or that's definitely part of the process, but it doesn't have to be related to specifically technology. More importantly is your current application or your current system supporting the business as it is today, and is it supporting the business as you see it in the future, whether it's the near future or the far future, whatever that may be. Does the current application, does the current workflow support that? And if yes, great. If not, not. But even if yes, it might be worthwhile to have to talk to somebody about what it is that you're thinking about, and they can provide, like, in our world, we can provide some advice and say, that sounds like your current architecture won't support it, because once you hit this milestone, it'll be, if you're using an Access database and it supports your system and you're doing great, but that you're going to be bringing in 400,000 new clients tomorrow, that database may grow to a point in size where, okay, now it's not going to work anymore. So from your perspective, the application may actually work, but understanding the technology behind it might say, no, that's really not going to work in the near future. Or it could be a business issue. So it's not specific to technology, and the conversation, obviously technology is worthwhile to discuss, but it really is more important to understand, is the application supporting where you want the business to go and how you see the future?
And what you also have in some of the older applications is people may not have been aware, or they weren't, or the services and capabilities just weren't available, or weren't available easily. And certainly costs for many resources have gone down dramatically. We were talking to somebody the other day who was manually collating documents that are electronic, that they print out. And, again, this software was written a long time ago. And, and some of the tools to manipulate, PDFs or those kinds of documents, were just not readily available, not easily available to those that aren't, highly technical. Nowadays, doing that, and they've grown dramatically. And this is it's just a waste of somebody's time. They could be doing, again, more high value, functions. And with a firm, with our firm at least, we've done this so many times, they benefit from our experience. We're not reinventing the wheel. We just want to know what size to make the wheel. So
that's a great analogy. Hi, do you feel like there's organizations that they'll make a change, they'll conduct some migration or whatever, and they think, there, we got that done. And 3 years later, there could be new opportunities. 2 years later, what sort of mindset should I have, almost, I guess, philosophically about this? Because I feel like if I see it as a technology issue, I'm going to think I checked the box, we did the thing. And as you're pointing out, new ways of doing things can emerge quickly, and you have to keep sort of an ongoing relationship with change.
It's also a matter of, let's assume that you outsourced it, to a firm like ours. It's really a matter of what their philosophy is. Is it, here's the transaction, it works, we fulfilled the statement of work. Let me know if you need anything. Or do you want to, have a lifelong customer experience where you're deeply invested in their success, and you want to have these reviews. You want to have reviews not just with management, perhaps quarterly or semi-annually, depending on what it might be, just general reviews, and, you want to get them talking, but also staff, because what happens is the people that are actually using the software, they want to do their job. They want to get their job done. They want to do the best they can, for their constituency, be it a customer or external or internal. And if there's a problem with the software or there's some feature it doesn't have, they'll do some sort of a workaround. They just want to get it done. But getting them involved and getting them invested in, in the success, really helps them. It's just a matter of just constant improvement. Look at it. It may be a simple piece of advice that, we can provide. It may be a simple tweak of a screw, metaphorically, that we can provide that'll give them what they need. So it's just, it's a matter of not just checking the box, from the people who did the work as well as management. And it's not a lot of resource to do, just to have the constant, check in, what are you doing? What's bothering you? What's new in the business? And get the people, the people that are actually using it involved at least once a year. They'll relish it. They'll be part of a solution. So they'll want to make the software work at best they can for the business.
It's great advice. Both of you really today have really helped us, I think, better understand this relationship with innovation and its business case, but also, not to sort of view it as a technological box to check. I loved your analogy, Hi, where we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to make it bigger or faster or smoother and things like that. Guys, thanks for everything today. Appreciate your expertise and your generosity with it. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for IsAware, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one today. IsAware is powered by Intersoft Associates, who believes the more you know about your IT, the better. Visit us at intersoftassociates.com and schedule your free consultation to talk about how custom software can help your business.